What happens when a self-made toy store CEO goes undercover and sees a supervisor humiliate a single dad in front of his kid? Jacob Keller stood outside store 4 of the 6 locations he'd built from scratch over the past 14 years. The chain had grown fast, and while he still walked the floors of the main flagship now and then, he hadn't met most of the staff at the other stores. Store 4 was in a quiet suburb outside Chicago, and it had been running without problems on paper. But Jacob had been getting vague, conflicting reports about low morale from a few corporate audits. Nothing concrete, just enough to make him uneasy. So he shaved his beard, wore thick black rimmed glasses, and tucked his usual confidence under a plain gray hoodie. His name tag read Derek. He told the district manager he wanted to test a new inventory system and needed to shadow a few stores. No one at store 4 had ever met him. That's how he wanted it. He wanted the truth, not a tour. The front doors opened with a cheerful jingle, but the moment he stepped in, Jacob caught the tension. The floor manager, a woman named Chelsea, was snapping at a teen cashier because a display wasn't built yet. "You were told to do this before lunch. Don't give me excuses. Just your job, or I'll find someone who will." The kid, maybe 17, looked down and nodded without a word. Jacob kept a straight face and walked over to the employee station. A short, heavy-set man with tired eyes approached him. "Hey, you the new trainee from corporate?" He looked at a clipboard. "Derek, right?" "Yeah," Jacob nodded. "Just here to help with stocking and learn the ropes." "I'm Luis," the man said, shaking his hand. "I'll show you around." Luis was patient and clear. He showed Jacob how the layout worked, who was in charge of what, and how to check inventory. They worked in the back room for about 2 hours before a loud voice echoed from the break room. "I don't care if you've got your kid this weekend, Felix. You don't get to leave early just because you can't manage your personal life." Jacob froze. "That's Chelsea," Luis whispered, tightening his grip on the box he was holding. "She's intense." Jacob slowly walked toward the break room. Inside stood a young man, maybe in his early 30s, holding a small hand in his. His son, no older than 7, stood beside him, clutching a wrinkled spider-bot plushie. The boy looked scared. "I told you I needed to pick him up by 5. I even wrote it on the schedule board last week," Felix said, voice low but firm. Chelsea crossed her arms, towering over him. "You work part-time. You don't get special treatment. We all make sacrifices. You think I don't have a life? You think I don't have somewhere I'd rather be?" Felix looked down at his kid. "I just don't want him waiting outside a school with no one there. I'm doing my best." "Well, your best isn't enough," Chelsea said. "This isn't a daycare. Either get someone else to pick him up or find another job." Jacob stepped in then. "Sorry to interrupt. I was looking for the restroom." Chelsea turned, annoyed. "Out the door to your left." Felix gave a small nod to Jacob before walking out with his son, quiet and embarrassed. Back in the stockroom, Jacob turned to Luis. "Does that happen often?"
Luis hesitated. "Yeah."
"Felix is one of the good ones. He works hard, always picks up shifts. But Chelsea, she's hard on people who don't fit her mold. Why hasn't anyone said something?"
Luis sighed. "People need the job.
You speak up, you lose hours. Or suddenly you're not on the schedule. Quiet retaliation. She's smart about it." Jacob clenched his jaw. "What about the district manager?" "She's tight with him. Went to high school together or something. No one wants to touch it." That night, Jacob sat in his car longer than usual. He pulled out his laptop, reviewed past employee complaints. A few subtle patterns popped up: early leave requests denied, write-ups for attitude, mostly toward part-timers and younger staff. He thought about Felix's kid, the way he held that toy like it was the only thing keeping him calm. Jacob had built this company to bring joy to families. Now his own store was making it harder for a dad to be there for his son. He wasn't just upset. He was ashamed. Tomorrow, he was going to dig deeper. Jacob arrived the next morning early enough to watch the openers prep the store. He kept his hoodie up, blending in with a handful of employees unpacking boxes near the loading dock. It was colder inside than he expected. Part of the store's cost control measures was limiting heating in the back rooms until opening hours. He made a mental note, but didn't comment.
Not yet.
Felix wasn't in yet. Neither was Chelsea. Luis walked by with a dolly stacked high with board games. You good to help restock aisle 7? Jacob nodded, falling in beside him. They worked quietly for a few minutes, fitting the new Winter Wonder collection onto the shelves. A woman with long braids and a calm demeanor joined them, adjusting price tags. You're the new guy, right?
I'm no Kropka.
He smiled faintly.
Yeah.
Derek. She glanced around, then leaned closer. You here just for inventory? Supposed to be. Why? Nia didn't answer immediately. She finished adjusting a price label, then said, If you're smart, you'll stay out of Chelsea's way. Especially if you're not full-time. Jacob kept his voice neutral. You had problems with her? I've been here 2 years. She didn't even learn my name until last spring. Calls me you or her half the time. If you ask for help, she acts like you're wasting her time. Luis joined in. She's different when upper management's around. All smiles and fake encouragement. But the second they leave, back to snapping at people like we're kids. Jacob reached for a box of puzzle sets, speaking carefully. She ever say anything out of line? Nia hesitated. Then, last month, we had a new girl named Myra. College student. Wore a hijab. First day, Chelsea told her not to wear it in customer service because it made people feel weird. Said she should work backstock instead. Jacob stopped mid-shelf. What happened? She walked out, Luis answered. Didn't even pick up her paycheck. Nia nodded. We all knew it was wrong, but no one wanted to lose hours. I told her to report it. Don't think she ever did. Jacob didn't respond. He didn't trust his voice just then. By late morning, the store opened and the floor began to buzz. Customers trickled in, mostly young parents with toddlers, a few grandparents, and one man who looked like he hadn't slept in days, pacing the action figure aisle while his twins argued about which robot was better. Felix arrived just before noon, eyes a little red but posture steady. He clocked in, gave a quiet hello to Nia, and headed straight to the back to prep a delivery cart. His son wasn't with him today. Jacob watched him from the corner of his eye, efficient, focused, not wasting a second. Not once did he complain. Chelsea arrived 10 minutes later, walking fast, phone in hand, sunglasses still on. She didn't greet anyone, just barked out, Why is aisle 11 still cluttered? That display was supposed to be rotated this morning. A young woman named Cassie, no older than 20, hurried over. We're still waiting on the new peg hooks. Luis said they'd be in by tomorrow. Excuses again. Chelsea snapped. If you can't solve small problems without help, you shouldn't be working retail. Cassie flushed, but nodded and walked off. Jacob watched silently. His jaw clenched tighter each time Chelsea walked past someone without acknowledgement. By 2 o'clock, the store was busier. A father in a wheelchair struggled to reach a shelf with his young daughter, trying to grab a popular craft kit. Jacob moved quickly and handed it to them. The man thanked him with a smile, and Jacob nodded, saying, Anytime. From behind, Chelsea's voice cut through. Derek, I need you in the stockroom. Now. He followed her, keeping his expression blank. As soon as they were out of earshot, Chelsea turned sharply. I didn't approve that assist. We don't do floor help unless asked. This isn't a charity. Jacob blinked. He couldn't reach the shelf. We're not personal shoppers, she snapped. You're here to stock, not to play hero. He didn't respond. Instead, he nodded and walked past her toward the back wall, pretending to check a clipboard. Inside, his blood was boiling. 10 minutes later, he saw her again. This time it was with Luis. "You took too long with the dollhouse restock," she said, arms folded. "That should have been done before lunch."
Luis trad, visibly exhausted.
"I had to cover for Cassie while she helped a customer." Chelsea waved a hand dismissively. "That's not your problem. We're all expected to multitask. You've been here long enough to know that." Jacob watched Luis nod and walk away, his shoulders lower than they'd been all morning. At 4:30, a young man with a buzz cut and a nervous demeanor stepped behind the register. He seemed new slow with the buttons, double-checking prices. The line grew. A woman with 2 toddlers began sighing loudly. Chelsea walked briskly to the counter, leaned in, and said just loud enough for everyone to hear, "We're not running a training facility here. Either keep up or step away and let someone who knows the system take over." The young man's hand shook as he hit total. Jacob stepped back, pretending to adjust a fixture. But his heart pounded. Another half-hour passed. Then came the trigger. Felix was helping an elderly customer carry a box of building sets to her car. Jacob caught the entire interaction polite, respectful, even offering to tape the box closed for easier lifting. When Felix returned, Chelsea was waiting. "You left your station," she said coldly. "I was just helping. I don't care. You're not security. You're not valet. You're a stock associate. This is the second time in 2 days you've decided your personal judgment outweighs policy." Felix looked at her, jaw tight. "I was just trying to be decent." "You're not paid to be decent," she snapped. "You're paid to follow instruction. Get back to work or clock out." Jacob didn't wait. He walked over, removed his glasses, and pulled down his hood. Chelsea stared blankly. "What are you doing?" "I'm Jacob Keller," he said, voice low. "I own this company." The break room went silent. Employees froze in place. Chelsea's face didn't move at first.
Wait.
"What?" "I've spent the last 2 days watching you talk down to nearly every employee here. I watched you humiliate a father in front of his kid. I heard what you said to Myra. And I just watched you discipline someone for helping a customer to their car." She opened her mouth, but he cut her off. "You're done here. Effective immediately." Her expression flattened. "You're making a mistake. I've run this store for 5 years, and in that time," Jacob said, "you've created a culture of fear, not leadership. You're not protecting this team. You're controlling them. That's not what this company stands for." He turned to Luis. "Please walk her to the office. Security will be here shortly." Chelsea didn't say another word. Luis nodded, his hand steady now. Jacob turned to the rest of the staff, who had begun to gather slowly near the front register. "I owe you all an apology," he said. "I should have seen this sooner. I won't let it continue." He looked at Felix. "You did the right thing yesterday.
And today.
I'm sorry you were made to feel like that wasn't enough." Felix said nothing, just nodded once, eyes wide. Jacob stepped away. He needed to call HR, needed to get a new interim manager here, fast. But more importantly, he needed to rebuild trust. And he knew exactly where to start. The following morning, Jacob walked into store for not as Derek, not as a mystery trainee, but as himself.
No glasses. No hoodie. No disguise.
Just a plain navy sweater, dark jeans, and a clipboard tucked under his arm with notes he'd written the night before. The staff was quieter today. The usual low hum of chatter in the back room had been replaced by glances and half-finished whispers. Luis stood near the mop sink, tying his apron slower than usual. Nia was at the schedule board, erasing names with a dry marker that squeaked too loudly in the silence. Nobody said it outright, but the air had shifted. Jacob didn't waste time. He stepped into the small meeting area, the same one Chelsea had used to dress down employees, and called everyone in. Felix was the last to enter, arms crossed over his chest, eyes cautious. The young cashier from yesterday, the one Chelsea had embarrassed during checkout, stood off to the side, nervously tugging on his sleeves. There were 13 people in total. 1 missing. Cassie, Jacob asked, glancing around. Nia stepped forward. She texted me. Said she didn't feel comfortable coming in today. He nodded once, then looked around the group. I know yesterday was a lot. I want to make one thing clear: no one in this store is under investigation. You're not in trouble. You've been working hard under difficult conditions. That ends now. No one spoke. A few of them exchanged glances, unsure of what to expect. I've brought in an interim manager, Jacob continued. Her name is Denise. She's managed our flagship location for 7 years and has trained every store lead we've hired in the last 2 years. A woman in her late 40s stepped into the room. Her expression was calm but alert, like someone used to dealing with chaos and cutting through it quickly. She gave a brief nod. I'll be here for 2 weeks minimum, she said. Longer if needed. I'm here to support, not replace. I work shifts. I stock shelves. I don't hide in the office. Jacob let the words settle. Then he turned to the clipboard. Second, we're launching a full internal audit, not of your performance, but of ours. Scheduling, training, complaint handling, wage gaps, everything. And we'll be doing confidential one-on-one feedback sessions with each of you. A hand went up in the back. It was the cashier from yesterday. His name tag read Eli. Will we be punished if we talk openly? He asked. No, Jacob said. You have my word. I'm not here to silence anything. I'm here to hear it and fix it. That seemed to break something loose. Shoulders relaxed. Breaths came easier. Denise stepped in, motioning to a stack of printed forms. Before your shifts begin, fill these out. No names. Just honest input. I don't care if it's messy. I care if it's real. The group slowly dispersed. Some picked up pens and sat down right away. Others hesitated, then followed. Jacob stepped aside with Felix. I read your file last night, he said. You've never been late. Never called out. Consistent 5-star peer reviews. I should have known your name before yesterday. Felix looked down, adjusting the cuff of his work shirt. I wasn't trying to start anything. I just wanted to do my job and be able to pick up my son. You shouldn't have to choose, Jacob said. That's on me. Felix nodded once, still guarded. Jacob paused, then added, if we adjusted the schedule to allow you a fixed end time on certain days, would that help? Felix blinked, caught off guard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would. Done, Jacob said. And if you ever feel like you're being penalized for being a good father again, you call me directly. Felix didn't say anything for a few seconds. Then, quietly, thanks. Jacob moved through the store over the next few hours, staying out of Denise's way, but watching closely. She didn't waste time with pep talks. She joined the floor team in restocking a shelf of plush toys, then made 2 kids laugh during a price check by pretending the scanner was a robot with a stutter. It was subtle, natural. The kind of leadership that didn't need to announce itself. By mid-afternoon, Cassie arrived unexpectedly. She didn't say much, just walked in, grabbed a pen, and filled out the form. Jacob watched from across the room as Denise gave her space. No pressure.
No questioning.
Just room to re-enter. Later, in the back room, Jacob caught up with Nia. I saw your note about the holiday hours, he said. You've been covering extra shifts? She shrugged. No one else could. I'm not trying to be a hero. Just didn't want the store falling apart. You're not invisible anymore, Jacob said. That ends today. Nia tilted her head. Why now? Why come down here in person? Jacob hesitated, then told her the truth. About the reports that didn't add up. About the audit flags that didn't trigger formal action. About the way his gut told him something was off, but he hadn't trusted it soon enough. I built this company to be different, he said. But somewhere along the way, I started letting spreadsheets make decisions people should have made. Nia nodded slowly. It's easy to forget what it feels like down here. I won't forget again. Before he left that evening, Jacob gathered the team once more. This isn't a one-week fix, he said. We're going to rebuild this store together. That means better training, realistic scheduling, and a culture that doesn't tolerate disrespect no matter who it comes from. He handed a small card to each employee. It was simple, just his name, a direct number, and a line that read, "Use this if no one else is listening." As they filed out for the night, Luis stepped up beside him. "I didn't think anyone upstairs cared anymore," he said quietly. "Guess I was wrong." Jacob looked at him. "You were right to doubt. But I'm going to earn it back." Luis nodded once, then walked toward the exit with a steadier gait than Jacob had seen before. As the last light flicked off in the break room, Jacob stayed behind for a moment longer, staring at the empty whiteboard on the wall. The eraser streaks from the old schedule still faintly visible. The same board where Felix had written his pickup time in ink, hoping someone would notice. This time he would. By the end of the first week under Denise's leadership, the store felt different, but not fixed. The tension had eased, but the fatigue hadn't. Even with Chelsea gone, the gaps she left behind remained. There weren't enough trained hands for the floor, the stockroom was still 2 delivery days behind, and the schedule board looked like a puzzle with too many missing pieces. Jacob stayed involved, but deliberately stepped back during operating hours. He took a small corner in the back office and spent most of his time listening. Not directing, just listening. On Friday afternoon, he invited Felix to join him during his lunch break. They sat at the small table by the vending machine, the same one where Chelsea had once dismissed a scheduling request without looking up. "I've been working through some proposals," Jacob said, sliding a printed sheet across the table. "Part-time flexibility plan, based on your feedback and a few others." Felix leaned forward, eyes scanning the page. "Guaranteed shift end times?" "For employees with documented family responsibilities, yes. It won't fix everything, but it'll stop people from being punished for having a life outside of here." Felix set the paper down carefully. "You're going to get pushback from other stores." "I know," Jacob said. "But I'd rather get pushback and do the right thing than ignore it and lose people like you." "Then you'll need to retrain how people think about leadership," Felix said. "Because for a lot of managers, flexibility means weakness." Jacob looked at him. "I want you to help me with that." Felix blinked. "I'm not a manager. I stock shelves." "You're someone who understands what leadership should feel like. That's rare. I'm setting up a pilot advisory panel for employees from different levels, no titles, just honest input. I want you on it." Felix hesitated. "What if I say the wrong thing?" "Then we'll learn from it," Jacob said. "That's the point." Up front, Luis was helping a customer with a damaged toy box. Instead of replacing it outright, he offered to swap the packaging at no charge and wrap it in store, an idea Denise had implemented the day before. It wasn't corporate policy, but it made sense. The customer left smiling. "Luis always finds a way to make things work," Jacob said, watching from the monitor. "He runs on fumes most days," Felix replied. "He won't say it, but he's covering for 2 people's worth of work." Jacob nodded once. "Then he needs backup." That evening, after closing, Jacob called in the entire team again, this time for a working session, not a speech. He brought in 2 HR reps and a regional scheduler. They laid out charts, timelines, and staffing projections. No one was told what would happen. They were asked what should. "I'm not here to dump decisions on you," Jacob said. "I'm here to build this with you. If you've got 15 hours a week and can't lift heavy boxes, say that. If you want more hours and haven't been getting them, say that too." Nia raised her hand. "We need a limit on consecutive closing and opening shifts. Cassie's done 3 this week." Cassie nodded, eyes tired but grateful. "I can do either. Just not both back to back." "Logged," said the scheduler, marking it down. Eli, still new, brought up a problem no one expected. "I've been here for 2 weeks and no one showed me where the emergency exits are." Everyone turned. Luis nodded slowly. "That's on us." We've been so short we've skipped orientation basics. Jacob looked at Denise. We'll fix that first thing tomorrow. Mandatory safety review. For everyone. Over the next hour, they built the new structure piece by piece. Not a perfect system, but a real one. Grounded in the reality of this team's needs, not just corporate forecasts. The next morning, Jacob returned early with Denise. They didn't say much during setup, just observed. Cassie was training Eli now, going over point-of-sale functions with a laminated cheat sheet she'd made on her own time. Nia had rewritten the toy section map to account for the new winter shipment, and Luis had started using colored tape to mark overflow zones in the back room. Jacob stood beside Denise as the doors opened. Still a long way to go, she said. Yeah, he replied. But at least they're not surviving in silence anymore. At noon, a delivery truck arrived with 2 new hires from the corporate training program, temporary floaters to help close the staffing gap while they finished recruiting. One of them, a young woman named Marisol, asked Nia how to badge in. Nia showed her without hesitation, then walked her through the break room and explained where to find everything. At the register, a mother with a toddler in her arms asked Felix where to find the art kits. He didn't just point, he walked her halfway there, then returned to greet a young boy looking nervously at a Lego set behind the counter. Jacob stood near the customer help desk, watching it all unfold. No one was rushing. No one was shouting. They were still short-staffed, still under pressure, but for the first time, the store was moving with rhythm, not friction. He stepped outside for a moment, letting the cold air clear his thoughts. Denise joined him a minute later, sipping from a small paper cup. You're not going to be able to do this for every store, she said. I know. So, what's your plan? I'm building a new leadership model, Jacob said. Promotions based on peer feedback, not just performance. Managers will need recertification every 2 years. We're creating a new code of conduct specifically for store leadership. Denise nodded slowly. You'll lose a few. Then they were never right to begin with. She looked back toward the store. You ought to come in more often. Not undercover. Just present. He exhaled.
Yeah.
I was thinking the same. Later that afternoon, Felix's son came into the store with his grandmother. Jacob watched discreetly as the boy ran straight to the plush toy wall, the same one he'd clutched during that awful moment days earlier. This time, he laughed. Loud, open, unafraid. Felix spotted them and walked over, crouching beside his son, pointing at a new model with light-up eyes. They spoke quietly, just a father and son sharing a moment. Jacob turned away, not wanting to intrude. As he left store for that evening, he paused at the schedule board. New names had been added. Shifts were color-coded now, with symbols indicating flexibility needs and training status. A small white card had been pinned to the bottom corner. It read, "Built by all of us." Jacob didn't smile. He didn't need to. He just nodded once, then walked out into the cold.